Doing today? Welcome to my photography live stream where we talk about photography and catch up on how the community's doing, how everybody's doing. I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing well, thanks. As always, I like to let the audience, you guys, drive the conversation. So feel free to ask me any questions. I see there's a lot of people here already, so I'll try and get through some of the chat. But it's good to see everyone. Sorry for the late start today. Normally I start, about 4 hours ago, but I went out this morning and did some shooting today with a model, which is a rare opportunity for me. So it wasn't my shoot. I was just kind of invited to help with some of the lighting and the flash, and it was very, very impromptu. So uh, not the ideal situation for me, but we got through it, and I got a couple of okay pictures. Like I said, I was kind of in the background, just moving the lighting around. I was kind of like the grip guy, but the person that was actually doing the shoot is working on a project uh, that she has this vision or artistic vision for, and so I didn't do any direction or uh, make any suggestions about how to do any of the compositions or posing. 'Cause, it was her vision, right? And she just wanted my help a little bit with lighting because she's actually won some awards and things and many contests, and her work is, uh, really good, but doesn't use flash. She's always been sort of a natural light type photographer, and, uh, so I'm helping her with that, teaching her a little bit, and maybe that'll lead to something more in terms of, me getting access to some more models, potentially. I'll show you 1 or 2 that I did today. Uh, I just did a couple of quick edits. I just got back about a half an hour ago from that. But let me see who's in here. I see Anthony is here. Good to see you. And let's see. Wow, lots of comments there from Anthony. I'll try and get through those. And Darko, good to see you. And oh, my chat froze. Okay, here we go. And Erna, good to see you. And let's see. I see Roger and Steve, Jeff Painter, the Great Vanzini. And Eric, oh, hey, Eric, good to see you. So yeah, it is afternoon, right? I normally do these in the morning. So let's start with number 1 here with Anthony. It says here, due to the tariffs that were put in place last week, it is forecasted that the OM3 in the next month or 2 will cost 45% more due to the Trump's tariffs. Remains to be seen. I saw something on the news yesterday about Vietnam uh is going to drop their import tariffs to 0%. So that may incentivize current administration to reduce, if not eliminate, the tariffs of things being made in Vietnam, which is where the OM Systems factory is. I don't know if everything's made there, but certainly uh, that's where their main factory is. So we may not see anything. I haven't seen anything. I'll worry about it more when time comes. We just have to kind of wait and see what happens. I don't think a lot of the camera stores have gotten any guidance what they're gonna be doing yet, so it's very, very fresh. Too early to say, but, if it goes up, it goes up. I mean, it is what it is. We just have to balance, our needs with our budget, right? Do we really need that, and does our budget support it? Regardless of tariffs, just even at the current prices, you have to kinda balance those things. I mean, that's how I look at it. Uh, I mean, we all like to pay less when we can or not pay more than we have to, but in the scheme of things, what control do we really have over prices and products, uh, unless we make our own factories and start selling our own stuff, right? And Anthony goes on, says, I fear these heavy tariffs could cause OM systems to go under. Nikon and Canon only have 26% tariffs at most. When stock starts running out. We'll see the new price. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Um, let's see. And the current price of the OM3 is 1998 or 1999.98. The new price will be forecasted to 28.99. This will make it the next impossible. Possibly. I mean, we just don't know. I did talk to the camera store a little bit yesterday, and he said the OM3 is selling well. He more than he thought it would. He's on his third shipment of OM3s. It's a small camera store here locally, but the fact that he had to go to a third shipment is says a lot, right? And let's see. And Anthony says the information came from 43 rumors. Hasselblad and Leica are going to at least be affected to be the least affected camera lens manufacturers with the tariffs. Okay. I mean, it's just way too early. I mean, maybe next week we'll know more, maybe the week after, maybe in 30 days. I mean, it's just too unpredictable. See what's going to happen, and whatever happens happens, and we just continue to make, our decisions uh based on the current market, right? Of things that we need to get, or I mean, on the one hand, it's like maybe it'll temper uh the market a little bit, which is good. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I feel like we're just, obviously I can. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you guys heard that. Um, somebody's at my door. I'm so sorry. Give me just 1 second. I'm sorry. Whew, sorry about that. My mom brought me over some salad or something. Soup and salad. Let's see. Interesting. So that's to Anthony, and then uh, yeah, things are made in Vietnam, and there are heavy tariffs on products. Yeah, compared. Yeah, I think initially it was like 46% or something, but I think they're negotiating now, right? Because Vietnam decided to go to zero tariffs on imports. We just don't know. Okay, and good morning, Darko. Good to see you. And it says, I feel for the American people as Canada will have tariffs, but the American population will definitely be paying more for goods as the end users pay tariffs. Yeah, could be. Could be. Because the US doesn't manufacture cameras, right? We don't have any American manufacturers for camera gear or American company except maybe Kodak, but I'm not even sure about that anymore. So we'll see. And anyways, got out yesterday to do some street photography, but ended up mostly with shots of tall buildings downtown Winnipeg. Hey, buildings are great. I love taking architectural type pictures, I just always loved geometry since high school. Uh so lines, angles, triangles, rhombus. Rhombus is the funniest math word I ever heard. Uh The funniest word in the English language to me is monkey, because you can use that word in any sentence and it's just immediately funnier. Like, the hell is wrong with that monkey? Anyway, okay, Erna. Hey, Rob. Good seeing you. Good seeing you too, Erna. And he says, I finally figured out how to set exposure without the diagonal showing up highlights and shadows. Basically, I have to press exposure button on the top right and turn the front and left right down. Oh, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So push and hold and turn. Okay. Good, good. I'm glad that worked out. Thank you for trying last time. Now it makes sense to me. Okay, good. And Darko says, kind of excited for the Z5 II, hoping for a Z63 firmware update to include all the tracking subject detection modes. Oh, I just assumed it had it already. I mean, I'm not a big Nikon guy, but yeah, the Z5 II looks really attractive. I mean, what is it? It's basically a Z6 III? Well, it's basically a ZF, right? The Nikon ZF in a body with a grip. So you have the ZF and then you have the Z5 II, which I think these two cameras are basically identical, except for the bodies. So very similar to the OM3 and the OM1 Mark II. Two very, very similar cameras in terms of feature set and capability, just in different bodies and at slightly different price points. So very similar. Um, Anthony says, does anyone recommend OM System 12-1 f4 Pro lens as an all-around everyday lens for landscape and travel? I can't think of too many people that wouldn't recommend it. I mean, that lens has a tremendous range, right? 12 to 100, which is a 24 to 200 equivalent. Fixed f4 aperture. So if you want to do video on top of that, there's some advantages to that. But the main thing is that this lens is very versatile, very sharp. It has the image stabilization, so you can get the sync stabilization with OM system cameras. And I haven't heard one bad thing about that lens. The only reservation I have personally with it is just the size and weight. It's a trade-off, right? You want the kind of performance and quality that that lens can deliver. The compromise is going to be a little bigger lens, right, than some of the other ones you can get. For example, the 14 to 150 lens, it's an f3.5 to f5.6, I think, somewhere. It's a variable aperture lens. The image quality is not quite as strong as the 12 to 100, but it has a little more reach, smaller size and weight, and a slower aperture. So everything's kind of a trade-off. I mean, you really have to appreciate there's an inverse relationship between the quality of the lens and the size and weight of the lens. I mean, that's why like so many lenses, even with the same aperture, some are huge. Like the Sigma's 51.4 art lens is much bigger than say the Nikon 50 millimeter f1.4, the one that just came out. That's not an S lens. It's more of a classic style, right? Not classic style, but Uh, it's just a much smaller, lighter lens than the Sigma, but I think technically the Sigma is a sharper, more clinically clean, clinically accurate lens, right? It's very, very, very sharp, less aberrations, super sharp, wide open, corner to corner, all the things that you look for in lens quality. I think the Sigma version is going to beat it, but yeah, it's probably 50% larger and heavier, right? And that just is very, very hard to avoid. It wasn't only, somewhere I think in the 1950s, it was Leica that came up with the spherical lens. Don't quote me on the timeline, but that was a serious leap forward for lens uh, technology, right? In developing smaller, lighter lens that perform as well as much larger lenses. Because until they developed the spherical lens, you had to use multiple lenses to make corrections to the light as before it reaches the sensor or film plate in that case, whereas in a spherical lens can perform many functions at once, right? Or affect the light in many different ways at the same time, thereby allowing you to use one element to do the same thing as 2 or 3 elements might do. But since then, other than some coatings and, formulas that they use in the glass itself, because glass is not just pure glass, they mix it with other elements. There really hasn't been a huge amount of, uh, you know, engineering or leaps or advances in lens technology, right? Uh, for primes. Now, for the zoom lenses, certainly there's been a huge leap forward in design, but it doesn't take away from the fact of that inverse relationship that I talked about. If you want a high quality lens with the current lens technology, it has to be certain size and weight, certain number of elements, certain throughput or light flux that goes through the lens, depending on how much light you need to pass, uh, you know, for different size sensors and all of that stuff. And I guess a living, I'm not a living legend. I'm just a guy with a camera. Without today shooting, hope to see some cool shots. Yeah, I can. I think I can share a couple. Let's see. Jeff, hello. Good to see you. Great Vanzini. Roger, good afternoon. And here's some feedback from XMeta. The 12 to 100 f4 is excellent. Yesterday I was shooting a large celebration with it, 80 plus people on the EM5 III. Yeah, so it's without a question a great lens. And a friend of mine, David, is very critical. I mean, he's very, very critical. I mean, he loves that lens. He thinks it's great. Um, he doesn't like his OM1 too much, but he likes that lens. I'll tell you that. And some more from Michael here. The 12 to 100 is great all around lens. I love it. It would be the last lens I would ever get rid of. Yeah. And and you're going to hear that, Anthony, over and over again. I can't think of anyone that's ever said one bad thing about that lens. And Roger says, can you comment on the three Olympus 40 to 150 zoom lens regarding value, quality? Been thinking about it, lower price one, but also looking at the other two. Okay. So for me, I'm just sticking with the 40 to 150 kit lens. Super sharp, uh, variable aperture f4 to f5.6, but I don't have weather sealing, so that's one of the compromises. And yeah, it on the long end, it's not quite as sharp as the other two pro lenses at all. No, hands down, it's not as good. But at the shorter ranges, between 40 and 100 millimeters, it's good enough. It's good enough for me that I have no problem shooting with that lens. Now, I haven't shot, as far as I know, ever with the other two lenses, the 40 to 150 f4 Pro and the 40 to 150 f2.8 Pro. Uh, if you need weather sealing, then I would recommend the 40 to 150 f4 Pro because it's still very compact. I think it was touted as one of the lightest, most compact lenses, zoom lenses in that range. Regardless, it is a very small, compact lens, relatively speaking, and has great close-up focusing ability. Is tack sharp, corner to corner, fixed aperture at f4. So yeah, it's going to be a fabulous lens. Now, the 40 to 150 f2.8 uh, is also excellent, right? But gives you an extra stop of light. So if you need that extra stop, so that would be an ideal lens for indoor sports photography, like in a hockey ring or a basketball court. That extra stop will make a lot of difference, helping you get faster shutter speeds and lower ISOs by a full stop over the 40 to 150 f4. And two stops on the long end over the 40 to 150 kit lens, right? So it's a huge difference. And I would only recommend that lens if you plan on doing a lot of indoor sport photography where you're going to need that extra stop of light. Otherwise, the 40 to 150 f4, if you want the best sharpness, meaning I would say the 2.8 and the f4 lenses, both the pro lenses are equally sharp. You just have to choose. Do you want one f4 or f2.8? but I would get the f4 if you need weather sealing. If you don't need weather sealing, I would just get the 40 to 150 kit lens and just go to town with that. That lens is excellent. So what you can do is you can go to my Flickr page and just go into my albums here. But I have if I just do 40 to 150 like that, uh, this is my album for the 40 to 150 kit lens. And just go through these images and you tell me if they're sharp. You can decide for yourself if this lens is going to work or not. Like this image here, I did very recently, but this is with the macro lens attached to the front, right? Just a $40 macro lens that I got cheap, but it it works great. This is a stacked image, but here's what I did yesterday: 40 to 150 kit lens on the OM3, and I'm zoomed all the way. I believe this is 150 millimeters. Even here, you can see this lens, yeah, I'm at 150 millimeters, wide open at f5.6, 1/25th of a second ISO. So I processed this in DxO, of course. So for me, this lens is more than sharp enough for everything that I do. Not to say that you can't get, you're not going to get even better results with, the pro lenses, but I just don't, just going through my album here, I don't see a reason to spend more on on the pro lenses unless you need weather sealing. So that's where I would go. And again, if you're doing indoor stuff, I don't think I have even any indoor shots here. But let me give you the link to this album. So you or anyone that's watching, if you're welcome to go through those. And again, keep in mind, I process those images with DxO, which makes a lot of difference. And this is why I use DxO Photolab. Sure, raw would be the same thing, is because the final output, the optical corrections, the sharpening, the denoising, everything that does really makes very cheap lenses perform like a pro lens, in my opinion. Okay, let's see. And David Black, good afternoon from Southern India. ATR Bear, good to see you. Frank Piercy, good afternoon. Thanks for coming in today. And yes, Seraphin says that Vietnam canceled tariffs, so it's not going to be as bad as the doomsayers. Yeah, we just have to wait and see. I mean, you only pay the tariffs if you buy something, right? So I'll just stop buying things until I have to. David Crooks, off to get a haircut. All right. Thanks for dropping in though for a few minutes. David's heads the local photo club. The images of those bluebells and uh, the frog was from the photo club with David Crooks. That happened to be one. I help him host or co-host some of the events, but it's his club. And Zoltan, good to see you. Good to see you. Did you make it out to District Camera yesterday? I need to talk about that too. They had a Fujifilm there with the X100 GFX 100 RF. Their little rangefinder, fixed lens, 100 megapixel. Wow, I was impressed. I was impressed with that little camera, actually. Andreas, good evening from Germany. Awesome. And SM77, good evening from Paris. Wow, you guys are from all over today. That's great. And CMAL Gate says, just got the Leica 25 1.4 and absolutely love it. So crisp and punchy. I honestly prefer it to the expensive Ali f1.2. What do you think? The Ali design seems design orientated towards model shoots. Ah, the 25 1.4 definitely is, and I think Matty Sulanto really said it best. It's kind of two lenses in one. It's got a very classic vintage type feel to it when it's wide open at f1.4, and then it's this tack sharp and crispy, like you said here, very punchy when you stop it down to like f4. So from 1.4 to f4, you still get a very kind of classic feel. It's a relatively simple lens design. I think it only has like 7 elements, whatever. Uh, but yeah, I definitely love that lens. It's my favorite. The thing is that my favorite lens? It is my favorite lens. 25 1.4, even though I don't shoot with it quite as often lately for different reasons. But man, if I was stuck with one lens and like one prime lens, let's put it that way, it would be the 25 1.4. If I had to stick with one lens of all the lenses, it'd have to be the 12 to 40 Pro because that's the most versatile for both my professional and personal stuff. But when I shoot primes, 25 1.4 is my favorite. Now, compared to the 1.2, the 1.2 is uh, very, very sharp, has beautiful rendering in the out of focus areas, better than the 25 1.8, very similar to, and I would argue maybe even a little better than the 1.4, the Leica, wide open. But we're splitting hairs here. Ultimately, the 25 1.2 is going to give you the technically the better image with smoother bokeh. And yeah, definitely geared towards portraits. That's certainly a very, very strong use or application for that lens. But typically people like to shoot the 45, 1.2. I like the 1.8 personally. And the version 2 of the Leica 1.4 is weather sealed. So it's a tough call. I think for the price point, I bought mine for 250 bucks, the version 1 without the weather sealing. And a used 1.2 Olympus Pro lens is going to be 3 times that. So I don't think it's worth 3 times the price unless you're very, very critical and doing professionally paid shoots. Then it makes sense maybe to go with the 1.2. But for most of us as enthusiasts, it's going to be extremely hard to tell the difference. You only buy like the 1.2 Pro lenses, the 25, 17, 45. You get that trinity for consistency, image to image, when you're working with your OM system cameras. Consistency and performance, and not only autofocusing performance, but optical performance, so that when you're doing switching lenses, it just makes everything very consistent. But I think for somebody that's looking for a tremendous value, the 25 Leica 1.4, hands down, I would recommend that over the 25 1.8. Now, I want to correct or semi-correct something I said in a stream a couple of weeks ago, but when people are asking me between that lens, the 25 1.4, and the Olympus 25 1.8, I said something to the effect, but I don't know if I qualified this answer, that the 25 1.8 is not quite as sharp corner to corner as the 25 1.4. That is only true when you stop the lenses down. Wide open, the 25 1.8 is actually sharper corner to corner than the 25 1.4. The 25 1.4, you really have to get down to about f4. Now, I haven't tested it to see if that's because there's some kind of field curvature or if it's just optically, that's, the corners are imperfect on the 25 1.4 wide open, doesn't matter what the reason is the bottom line is the 25 1.8 is sharper corner to corner wide open, but as you stop the lens down, the Leica is sharper. That so let me just make that correction because I know one of you you're probably here, probably asked me that. I do want to clarify that now that since this came up. And as always, your results may vary because there is sample variation in the manufacturing process. Not every lens cranked out is going to give you identical performance. So, but that's with the two that I have, the lenses I own, that's been my experience. And Frank Piercy says, I have the 40 to 150 kit and just got the 2.8 Pro, and they are both good lenses. I plan on using them for my concert photography. Yeah, it's perfect lens for concerts. Yep. The thing is, I used the 40 to 150 kit lens in a theater for a dancing thing, not a concert, but similar lighting, I would assume. And it performed really well. Yeah, I had to crank the ISO time to time, but again, DxO really mitigates a lot of the problems that I have with higher ISOs and noise and all of that, and sharpness in general. Xmeta says alternative to 40 to 150 might be the 14 to 152, which is weather sealed. Yes, and at least my copy is quite fine. I use f1 7.1 at the long end. It's not like magic, the 12 to 100 f4, but okay. Then continue to 75 to 300 if longer is needed. Yep, solid advice. I was not a fan of the 14 to 150 version 2. In the beginning, I liked it a lot, but for whatever reason, my copy on the long end just got unusable. And I never dropped the lens, or I don't know what happened to that lens. And since I had the 40 to 150 anyway, I'm not missing it. I'm fine with swapping lenses. But the 14 to 150, I've seen a lot of images from people on the wide end, on the long end, various apertures and ISOs, and the lens performs really well overall. And so I don't hesitate recommending that lens. But there's a reason I don't have mine is because for whatever reason, mine just turned to crap on the long end, and I don't know if it was just my copy, because I liked it in the beginning. Even with DxO, I couldn't fix the just the mushy background. It was the out of focus. Even what was in focus was kind of mushy to me on the long end. I just couldn't use it anymore. Now, when I tested it originally against my 40 to 150, when I first got the lens, it performed equally as well. But somehow towards the end, I don't know what happened to it. And let's see, Marcia's here. Good afternoon, Marcia. How are you? And let's see. Nicely done on that frog. That was impressive. Oh, thank you, Eric. Got lucky. I was able to get fairly close to it, like maybe 2 meters, like 6 feet away, and then zoomed in to 150. I was able to fill the frame with that frog. And of course, when you fill the frame, you get plenty of detail. And Robin says the small 4/3 4150 f456 is basically the same lens as the micro four thirds. When you add the adapter, it's the same focal length as the micro four thirds. It's pretty cheap used. Yes, the adapter is not cheap. So if you're only going to use it for that one lens, I would just recommend buying that lens to begin with. And even the micro four thirds lens is not that expensive. Brand new, it's on sale like for $129 all day long. And you can buy them used for like $100. So that's why I never bought the adapter. I have a couple of four-third lenses, but none that I don't already have in the micro four thirds variety. So I don't have a need to get an adapter. And Wayne says the Panasonic Leica primes are nice. They are. They're really great. They got the 15, the 12, the 9, the 25, the 42, 1.2. Just off the top of my head, those are really good. I think they have a what, a 100 to 400 also? Fabulous, fabulous glass. And took my Fuji kit out yesterday, used zone focusing, but got a higher hit rate. Still not that impressed. Oh, what Fuji do you have? I forget. And I can see an orange GM1 from where I'm sitting. Nope. If you're talking about behind me, no, I don't have an orange. I don't have a GM1 at all. If you're talking about this thing up here, this is actually a Kodak instant printer, instant camera printer thing, whatever. It does nice black and whites, but you can't save any images to the camera. It's print only. Really frustrating. I boxed it up to return it, then I just didn't get around to it. I only paid 50 bucks for it, but I, I'm trying to give it away to somebody. Let's see. I might give it away. I'm just never going to use it. Let's see. And Greg Maurer, greetings from West Salem, North Carolina. I'm a new OM1 Mark II owner, have the 12 to 40 kit lens, and purchased the 12 to 40 f4 Pro. I placed an Amazon pre-order for the new 100 to 400, price guaranteed. Awesome. Awesome. Congratulations. The OM1, the OM1 Mark II, fabulous cameras. I think mine is right here. Yeah. I mean, I was going to take it out today. I should talk about the OM3 a little bit too. Because that's what I shot with this morning. Let me just catch up on the chat, then I'll show you. I'll talk a little bit about the OM3 and then about the Fuji GFX RF. Has anyone received the new 100 to 400 in US? I'm still waiting for it to ship. I don't know. I didn't order one. And then Roger says, regarding diffraction at small apertures, can we rely on DxO software to allow us to shoot f11 and smaller? Can we stretch our shooting out that end? DxO does such a good job. Uh, but it's only going to correct to a certain extent. It's not going to fix diffraction. I mean, it'll do a better job than I think other software. But I shoot at f11 all the time. Well, not all the time, but time to time I shoot at f11. F11 is not that bad in terms of diffraction. F8, F11. It depends on the lens, the focal length, all of that. You're going to see diffraction more, I think, I would say on the wider end than you will on the longer end. So, this DxO software so yeah, it's very subjective. Very subjective. You have to see, I can definitely see diffraction is messing up the image when I'm shooting at like f16, f22. Definitely a problem. F11, not quite so much. Not enough that it affects the kind of images that I would even deliver to a client. I have shot f11, but yeah, I'd say f11 is fine. You have to really pixel people and be very, very critical. I'd say printing poster size, you might see the diffraction in the images, like a little bit of mushiness. But f11 is not bad. Technically, it starts at even at f5.6, the diffraction, and when you get into f8, it starts to peak in. And some lenses, I think, are better at it than others. Although it's a physics thing where there's no way to avoid it. There's no amount of lens corrections that would fix diffraction, right? But don't worry about it at f11. But try to stay at f8 and lower is rule of thumb for Micro Four Thirds because of the pixel pitch is so high. It's less of a factor on the older Micro Four Thirds, which were what, 12 megapixels, but it's a little bit more of a problem with the 20 megapixels. Amazon pre-orders shipping on April 8th, scheduled to arrive on the 18th. So no, not yet. Okay, thanks for the feedback there. And John follows. Good to see you. John is always in my photo editing streams, submitting images. Good evening from the UK. I have the 2.8 40 to 150 Pro mainly for its weather seeing, and I can attach the 1. You know, that's a very good point. Attaching the teleconverters. That is an option with the 40 to 150 f2.8. That is not an option for the 40 to 150 f4 Pro. So thank you for the reminder. That could also be a very serious consideration to get the f2.8 over the f4 or the kit lens for that matter. And Steve says, would not be without my 40 to 150 f2.8 and 1.4 teleconverter. Just love this combo. Yeah. Yeah, it's excellent. And yeah, John reminding me here. Thank you for the reminder. I always forget about that. Hey, Rob. It's been a while. I had a chance to check in for it. Awesome, Scott. Good to see you. Yeah, it has been a while. Hope you're doing well. And CMOX says, how good is the 40 to 150 kit lens? Well, I tested at 60 millimeters against the 60 macro. Same fine target, about 10 feet, same f-stop, and the cheap zoom was actually sharper. Wow. So some more validation of the 40 to 150 kit lens, meaning the f4 to 5.6 variable aperture, you know, the small plastic fantastic. Like I said, I shared my album. Check it out. Uh, you know, my images aren't particularly epic. You know, they're just normal shots that anybody else could take. Oh, so you have the XT20 and the XE3. Those are really nice cameras. Um, those have the older 24 megapixel sensor. I really like the 26 megapixel sensor that the XT3 came with. I just I just didn't like my XT30. But I looked at the okay, so let me get through these as fast as I can because I really do want to show a couple of pictures and talk about the GFX and the OM3. And Greg says, "Oh, and, finally had some time to use the 918. Well, it's small light, image output is very good, even with sun in the frame. If only it was 3 millimeters wider." Really? Wow, another 3 millimeters. That's super wide. I mean, 9 is already pretty wide. Oh, excuse me. I had cafe coffee today. It shouldn't it I think it was decaf though, because it didn't have any bite to it. When I drink it black, it just didn't have the same kind of bite as Maxwell House. Ugh. Anyhow, I think I got a picture from the cafe this morning too. And Greg says, I just purchased Topaz Photo AI and using it to reduce noise. It seems to work very well, but DxO would be a better choice. Uh, I think it is. I have not, but I have not tried the latest Topaz Photo AI. So it's probably equally as good at this point, but I don't know. I cannot answer that. Your best bet is to download, you know, I have an affiliate link down below, but download the free trial and process some images, you know, and do an A/B test, right? Side by side. Because you get like at least a 15-day, but I think it's a 30-day free trial of Photolab 8 or Pure Raw 4, which is Pure Raw 5 is coming, which is supposed to be even better. I wouldn't sweat it. If you have Pure Raw 4 or DxO Photolab 8, do an A/B test and see. Something I should try, but I just I know that I I I strongly believe the older Topaz denoise when they used to come separately was not as good as DxO. I know that, in my opinion, no comparison. Hands down, DxO beat the older Topaz denoise AI. but I haven't tried the latest. Roger says, if is diffraction something 35 millimeter film shooter should worry about as much? No, because it just doesn't have the resolution. Film just doesn't have the resolution unless you're talking about, and you're talking about 35 millimeters. So no, don't worry about it. It will have an effect as anything will, but Anthony says just bought the 20 millimeter f1.4 when it was on sale as an all-around prime lens for general use and when shooting in low light. Awesome. That's a really good focal length because you really probably wouldn't need to take the 17 or 25. You could just use that. That replaces both those primes, in my opinion. But I have the 17 and the 25, so I'm like, why would I buy the 20? You know? 'Cause I would buy the 20, I would probably need to sell the 17 and the 25. I a little bit too much juggling. I've already committed. I made my choice, but I don't think the 21.4 is has what's the word I'm looking for? Has no you're not giving up anything by going with the 21.4. I think it's really a no compromise lens for what it is at that focal length. You're getting plenty of light at f1.4. It's a pro lens, it's sharp, it's weather sealed. I mean, it does it all, and it's not huge. It's not a small lens, but it's not huge for what it is. And Jeff says, I've got both the Ollie 40 to 150 f4 to 5.6 and the Pana 45 to 150 f4 to 5.6. They're both pretty good. The Pana is slightly smaller, better built, and has a metal mount. Okay. And I think the Pana also has OIS in it. So if you put it to a uh, Panasonic body, you can get dual sync stabilization. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's the better choice if you have a Panasonic body. Let's see, did I miss anything here? I don't think so. And more validation for the 21.4. Yep, great lens. And this side towards screen it says, "Hi Rob, wonder if you own the 17 or 22 wide lens. Are they worth it?" I have the 17. I'm not familiar with the 22. The 17 is a good lens. Not great. Wide open at 1.8, a little soft. It's more than usable for 99% of the things I shoot, right? But if you want to get really technical about it, I don't think it performs very well wide open relative to other. I mean, it's like kit lens performance, wide open. Okay, like 14 to 42 kit lens. And you guys know I love the kit lenses, but they're not as sharp as the pro lenses or any of the primes. Save for the 17 1.8, my copy is not any sharper wide open than a kit lens is wide open at f3.5. So, uh, but once you stop it down, it's fine. But what I like about the 17 is, and I have the older version, so it's not weather sealed, but you can get a weather sealed version now. So that's a plus, right? And, with that kind of lens, I typically shoot at f4, f5.6 anyway, so I'm not shooting wide open. I don't run into that problem that I just talked about very often in the kind of shooting that I do. So, and it's very small compact lens. It's not pancake, but it's virtually a pancake. It's close to the pancake you're going to get without getting a pancake lens. And the autofocus is very fast, silent, great for video. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that lens. Very well built, all metal, metal mount, metal body. The older one has the manual focus clutch, which a lot of people like. So, yeah, there's a lot to like about that lens, and it is a little soft, wide open. My copy, and I haven't heard anyone say any different about their copy. Everyone, I think, that has that lens will tell you it's not as sharp wide open as it is when you stop it down, but it's certainly more than usable. It's like kit lens quality wide open. And Jess says, yes, OIS on the Pan A45 to 150. Yep. So that would be definitely an advantage on Panasonic bodies, but not on Olympus OM systems. And Semjon, good to see you. All right. Now I want to talk a couple of things about the OM3. I'm going to get a grip for it. It's on order. It's a half leather case with a little bit of a grip. I've been shooting it with the 12 to 40 Pro a lot this past week. And my initial impressions of this combination was this lens a little bit heavy for this body without a grip. So this lens is like bread and butter on an OM1, perfect for that camera. But after shooting with this pretty much not every day, but a lot this past week with this combination, uh, I find it not bad at all. I'm surprised because I was shopping the 12 to 45 f4 Pro. I still might get that because it is smaller and lighter than this by quite a bit, like 30-40% smaller and lighter. Uh, I was, because like I always tell people, you're shooting this camera. I'm always shooting two-handed, right? And I shot with it for about 3 hours this morning, on and off for 3 hours, not straight, but on and off for 3 hours, and for several hours at a time over the last several days. This combination, and I didn't notice it a problem. I really didn't notice any problem at all. My first impressions when I got this camera, I was like, yeah, this is a little bit awkward, but somehow I got used to it. I've gotten used to handling the camera with this little bit heavier lens. Uh, and I don't know. I'm one of those that will say it's perfectly fine on this camera. And now I understand when people talk about using this lens on the EM5 Mark III and the OM5, how they find the handling just fine. I can appreciate because it's even more comfortable on the OM5 or EM5 Mark III, and certainly uh, perfect on the OM1. But even on this, because like I said, I'm mostly shooting like this, but the handling overall, even without this grip, I've not had any problem at all. The first couple of days, I do recall saying, "This is this lens is too heavy. I need to get a smaller, I need to get the 12 to 45 f4." But now we're like a week into just really only using this lens with this camera, and I'm like, I don't know. Somehow I've adapted to how this feels in my hand, and I'm not having any issues. So for people that uh for anyone that I just want to update my experience basically of using this lens with this camera. I'm finding it to be actually no problem at all. Quite not, I wouldn't say comfortable, because I'm still like death gripping on the side here, but I'm used to it now, you know. I can I can handle this. Because like I said, most of the time I'm holding it this way and zooming in and out, and just this hand is free pretty much just to push the shutter button. So I wanted to update you on that I don't have any problem using this camera with this lens anymore. Nowhere near as much as I thought I might. So now I have no desire to buy the 12 to 40 Pro anymore. 12 to 45 f4, which is substantially smaller than this. I'm very comfortable just using this lens with this camera now. Uh, just trust me, I would swap this out in a heartbeat. If I was still having problems with this today, I would be shopping a 12 to 45 f4. But I'm not having any problem anymore. So FYI on that. And The GFX, let me see if I can find some pictures. This is one of the shots I need to edit from this morning. Ah, see. Thing here. Oh, maybe it's in my projects folder down here. Okay, so is there even a picture of the GFX in any of these shots? This was a picture, yeah. So this is a picture I took with the GFX. So I'm at f4 wide open. There's virtually no shallow depth of field at f4, even with a medium format sensor, right? There's a little bit there, but for the most part, don't count on that. Uh, I thought, I guess the equivalent is what, f2.8 or something, but we're so wide. What does this say? GFX 100 RF, 35 millimeter equivalent. And this is a JPEG file, and it's 30 megabytes. This is another shot. There's just, there's all the cameras down here. What is this? This is with the GFX 100. I'm at 1/420th of a second, so there shouldn't be any misfocus. It didn't get focused on I didn't know what settings I was on. I really don't know. This is at the local camera store. I'm thinking about buying this thing though. This is pretty nice. This is the Instax wide. This is pretty cool. Let me see if I can find. This is totally misfocused. I was just holding the camera out in front of me like this, but this is the GFX 100S Mark II. This is not the rangefinder. This time I got it to at least focus on my nose. But I wanted to see, this is the 55 1.7 on the GFX 100S Mark II. And it's like from the tip of my nose to my eyeball, it's out of focus. It's so shallow. It's insane. Let me see, what is this one? This is the GFX 100 at 3.5. So you're starting to get a little bit of a shallow depth of field there. I think, what's this? This is, oh my God. This lens here, this is the XH2 with the Fuji 27 millimeter 2.8 wide open. This is soft. It's hard to see. Let me adjust the lighting. And if I apply the optical corrections to it, this is the JPEG, so it doesn't matter. It's just, I was surprised how soft this lens is. This lens is really popular too, the 27 millimeter 2.8 Pancake from Fuji. But if this is what I'm gonna get out of this lens, maybe it's just this copy. I don't think I'm gonna have to research this because I really like this lens, the size of it. It's a nice pancake prime and a decent focal length for Fujifilm APS-C. But I would never use it if this is what I'm gonna get out of it every time. It's just unbelievably soft. I just so here this is 140%. That's not good. Do I have any raw images in here? Let's see. This is a raw image. What lens is this? Oh, no. I wasn't paying attention to my settings, so I mean, look how sharp that is. That's nice and sharp. That 27-8, that was pretty disappointing. I don't wanna judge the lens off one copy of the lens in a store that I was just kind of rushing around, not paying attention to everything. Not being serious about what I'm shooting, but all the same, a quick snap like that, I was a little bit disappointed. Okay. Uh, let me find a video I did. Well, there's already a couple of questions here. Yeah, X meta, that's a good point. With the OM3, you can easily add a 12 to 100 f 4, 12 to 42 8, complement it perfectly. Yeah. I mean, the 12 to 40 is fine without a grip even on the OM3, to be honest. I'm not having any issue at all. I did it first, but after I shot with it for a while, now when I pick up the camera, I guess I'm used to the size, weight, the balance of it, and it's fine. And the 12 to 100 handles well known 3. I shot a couple of hours with it, depending on I like it, 10 to 25 on my own 3, and it was fine. Yeah, I would imagine you can get used to anything where, it doesn't feel out of balance or uncomfortable or, like I said, it was the 12 to 40 I thought was too big when I first tried it. And Hiker Dude says, I do my editing in Lightroom. If I want to try DxO for noise reduction only, what DxO software do I actually need? Yeah, just Pure Raw 5. That'll apply noise reduction and optical corrections. So you may need to turn off the optical corrections in Lightroom because DxO is going to generate a TIFF file. It may generate a DNG as well, but the DxO Pure Raw will generate TIFF file or a DNG, I believe, even a JPEG if you want. But if you want to edit in Lightroom, you want to probably output the TIFF file at least, maybe a DNG. Try both, see which one works better in Lightroom. And and then you can start with a really, really sharp, very well processed, because Pure Raw 5 and DxO Photolab, they're both demosaicing the raw file from the source raw file. So you don't need to use any of the raw processing that Lightroom will do to a raw image. So when you edit, I would edit a TIFF file, but you can do DNGs, but I would edit the TIFF file so you can go back and forth between Lightroom and Photoshop very easily. And but yeah, short answer is just Pure Raw 5. And Shakib is here. How good is the Olympus Ricoh 12 to 40 f2.8 Pro as compared to? Okay, so it's a pretty big difference, and it's worth buying. I would buy a used one for like 400. Brand new at 800, that's a little pricey. 'Cause you can do a lot with the kit lens, but having the f2.8 at 40 millimeters is so much better than f5.6 at 42 millimeters on the kit lens. Not because you need the depth of field or the shallow depth of field, but because of the ISO. You're saving 2 stops on the ISO. So if you were at ISO 1600 on the kit lens, you're going to be at ISO 400 on the pro lens at 40 millimeters. So that alone is worth the price of admission. And then if you need the shallow depth of field, you got that too. And the 12 to 40, yeah, it's definitely, there's nothing that you can't add a little sharpening and post-processing that it'd be difficult to tell the difference between a kit lens and a pro lens. You can certainly get very, very good results or perceived results from a kit lens by just doing a little post-processing, sharpening and stuff. I think you use Darktable, right? Uh, but there is no substitute for 2 stops of ISO, you know? You're always gonna get the better image at lower ISO. And that's the key thing with the 12 to 40 Pro is being able to use lower ISO across the range. and it's worth the price for that. And let alone the overall sharpness straight out of the lens is fabulous. And then a little bit of post-processing like DxO or whatever you're using on top of that makes, you know, hands down, there's no comparison between the two. The Pro lens also gives you access to, if you have an OM system camera that has in-camera focus stacking, or faster frames per second on the shutter, and those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head. But if you want to do in-camera focus stacking, the 12 to 40 Pro will allow you to do that, whereas the kit lens will not. And I think there might be some other features that may or may not be available with the kit lens, but that's the biggest one. And do you think they built the OM3 without a grip for looks or just not needed? I love how my Pentax KP has removable grips that bolt onto the body, 3 grips and all. Yeah. No, it's a pure design choice, right? Aesthetics. Because a camera with a grip is always going to be more usable and handle better than a camera without a grip. So it's purely for aesthetics. So yeah, so okay, back to the GFX 100. Let me see if I can find the video. I recorded video while I was at the event with my phone, so it's probably in my Google photo, whatever. I gotta do this without sound. Okay, so uh let's see. Is it laying here? Okay, so there's the XT50, the XT5, the Instax. This is the GFX over here. Okay, let's go a little further. There's another GFX. These cameras are huge. I'm never gonna buy these cameras now. They're so big. These GFX 100s. No, one of these is the GFX 50, I think. Anyway, whatever. These are much bigger cameras than I thought. So while the GFX 100 RF was smaller than I thought, the GFX 100s were bigger than I thought. I really like the XT50. I love that little camera. I want to buy it, but I just can't. I gotta cut down some trees around my house, so I'm kind of stuck. Let's see, what else is over here? I'm looking at, there's an XT XS20. Oh, there it is. There's the GFX 100. So next to the XT50, look at that. I mean, there's some peripheral perspective distortion here, but let me pause it here. It's really about the same width, and it's just a little bit taller. Okay, that dude, I was like, dude, I'm like filming here, and he just picked it up and took it away. Okay, so I went back to talk about this. I mean, I didn't say that out loud. I was just in my head. Okay, put it back. All right, now we're doing this side by side. So here's the X100 V. It's the same width, it looks like, right? It's just a little bit taller, maybe a centimeter taller. Of course, the lens protrudes out a bit. Oops. Now it's upside down. Hold on. It's upside down now. I must have flipped the camera around or something. Oh, wait. There it is. For whatever reason, it flipped back around. It's not that bad. And it's not heavy. I was really surprised. It's not heavy. It's not that big. And if we go back to the top-down picture, let's see. This is the 30 macro lens for the XT50, and this is whatever. This is a 35 millimeter, I guess. If you take the lens hood off, it looks really small. It's actually shorter than this lens. Right now, the lens hood is taking up another, almost 2 centimeters here for the lens hood. But yeah, I I was really impressed how small and lightweight that camera felt in the hand. And with the 100 megapixel sensor, you can toggle different focal lengths. I think it'll go 35, 50, 75, or 85. It'll jump for you, right? So it has a digital step zoom or digital teleconverter, but it's probably better named digital step zoom, where it steps to certain focal lengths automatically. And I don't know what the numbers are, but probably even at 75 or 85 megapixels, you still got at least 20, 25 megapixels to work with, which is more than enough for most things, particularly for that one lens. Now, there was some question about, someone asked me about I don't know why I'm talking and you're not looking at the picture. There was a question about, what is it? Someone said that I haven't watched a lot of videos on this camera, if any. But there was some question about the distortion that people were seeing with this lens. Now for whatever reason, I forgot to turn on RAW. Uh, but if we go back to the JPEGs, this is relatively close, right? If you look at this lens here, it's not distorted at all. Now the JPEG is going to do all the optical corrections in camera. So we're not going to see any distortion like you would as if it was a raw image. This is another shot. Everything looks perfectly fine in the corners to me. I'm not seeing any distortion when I look at these. How about this one? Same thing here. Everything seems to stay nicely proportioned all the way out to the corners. No problem at all. There's the OM1 and OM1 Mark III back here. They have them in stock if you guys want to order some. But anyhow, here's another shot. This is the RF. Corner to corner, I'm going all the way around this image. I don't really see any problems. So what that means is basically, if there is any distortion, it's being corrected in camera to create the JPEGs. And if you're processing the raw images, once all the different various software supports the GFX 100 RF, they're gonna have the same optical corrections. Now, the Leica Q3, for example, well, no, I can talk about the Q2. I imagine the Q3 is the same. But in Leica Q2, when you look at the raw image, it's very distorted. Okay? It almost looks like a fisheye lens. But with the optical corrections applied, it's perfectly rectilinear. Everything looks great. And there's so many megapixels there that any loss in resolution in the corners and things like that that happen when you do these optical corrections in camera are negligible, in my opinion. So I guess I have to get some raw images. I don't know if we go to DP review, see if they have the GFX 100 RF in here yet. Yeah, they don't have it yet. But once they get it, I can download the raw image from DP Review and see how much the distortion is, do the optical correction once it's available for DxO or Lightroom, and compare them and see if there's really any loss in resolution in the corners, if it's significant or not. But when you're starting at 100 megapixels, I mean, I can't imagine that it would be, particularly for the use case of this camera, which is like street photography, travel. You're not going to go out and do art reproduction where, yeah, you want corner to corner, to be perfect, right? Straight out of camera. You're not doing this for like product photography or international ad campaigns where you need it sharp corner to corner, straight out of camera. The raw image has to be perfect. Uh, that's not the intent of this camera. So even if there is some distortion, like in the Q3, let's see if they have the Leica Q3 in here or Q2. Okay, I like a Q2, right? So let's get a raw image. Let me download this raw image and I can show you. I'll just put it on a desktop. I'll go to my desktop. Did it come yet? Yeah. This L101 ENG. L Oh, there it is, raw. Okay, here. So yeah, look at the distortion on the Leica Q2. I would imagine the GFX 100 RF has a very similar distortion to it that people were talking about. But then once I apply, the optical corrections, let's see. Optical corrections only. And then if we punch into the corner, I mean, seriously, there's really no problem here. And then if I turn off the optical corrections, turn them back on, so we're losing a little bit of the frame. Like we're not seeing, like, if you look at this here, well, not where my head is. Let's go to the other corner. This corner, look at this corner. Let me apply the optical corrections. Whoops, this button. We lose a lot of what's in the frame. Okay, so point made, right? So please, because someone in the comments asked me about this, and this is what I assume they're talking about, is that the raw image is distorted, but once the optical corrections are available, it's going to be irrelevant. Okay. Simjon says, thinking about getting the panel like a 25 1.4, even though I own the 40 1.4 already. You mean the 20 1.4, I think, right? The colors and contrast of the 15 Panalike impressed me so much that I'm curious about the 25 millimeter now. Well, Semjon, just go to my Flickr page. I got a direct comparison. I don't have the 21.4, but I'll give you a link to that. 25 millimeters. See this image here. So in case you missed it, but I put the Panasonic 25 1.7, the Olympus 25 1.8 and the 25 1.4 here side by side, so you can compare them. Very, very little difference in the real world. Uh, okay. I mean, when you look at that, it's like, I think if you have the 21.4, I wouldn't bother with the 25 1.4. Just, I don't see a reason to. Okay. And let me go up here. Wow, a lot of chat here. A lot of questions. Okay, so that was Semjohn's. And Shri is here. Hey, Shri, good to see you. I saw you yesterday. Sleepy weather time, yeah. It's going to be cold too. We're going to dip below freezing on Tuesday and Wednesday, overnight anyway, well below freezing. Oh, I thought winter was over. It's going to kill all the flowers that have sprouted up over the past week or so. That's going to be terrible. Okay, and Hikerdu says, any recommendation on a ball head that will support the OM1400 without any sagging after tightening the ball head? Use cases Astro, where my Benro gear head cannot be pointed upwards towards the sky enough. Well, I don't have a specific recommendation, but I can give you a general recommendation. I would get at least a 38 millimeter, maybe a 44 millimeter ball head. So let me point you to one, and then you can kind of take it from there. Uh, so this is the general theme, right? This is a 44 millimeter ball head. It'll handle up to 44 pounds, but these are pretty good sized ball heads, right? 4.5 centimeters. So the size of the ball head dictates really how much weight it can handle, and then from there, uh, how smooth and how fluid is it. All of that stuff is more about the build quality of the ball head itself. This brand I've had this brand I've heard good things about. This is a generic, and then of course you have the more higher end stuff. Let's see. I would probably the ball head that I bought is in the car, but I think it was an Artisy or Art Size. I would try something like in this sort of range, 44 millimeters. Um, I'm gonna give you a generic affiliate link for this, okay? But that's what I would recommend. The only other thing, if money no object, uh, a gearhead would be even better. So let me show you what a gearhead looks like. This is the one that I use. Is that, whoops, we're on the right page. This one here. I don't see why this wouldn't support a 100 to 400. I don't see why not, but let's just double check. Maximum weight recommendation, 6 kilos. Oh, it might be a little tight. Yeah, I wouldn't use this with the 100 to 400. This might be better. Let's see if this does. This is 12K. Okay, now we're in business. This thing's not gonna sag or tilt because you can tighten the heck out of these, right? Something like this. So maybe look at something like this as well. The Benro HD3A. That's where I would go. But if you just want a ball head, 44 millimeters. So this is the three-way head. Okay. Oh, hey, Marco, how are you? I didn't see you drop in. How you doing? Marco's recommending one here. Let's see. Uh, okay, so this got to be a 52 millimeter, right? Because it says 52. Yeah. I mean, the bigger the ball head, the more it's going to support. And this one's $100, but I would try 44 millimeter. I think that'll get you where you need to be. But if Marco recommends this, I'm not going to second guess him. This is going to be a great ball head too. Okay. Whoops. And let's see. And David Black says, for me, DNG works best. So I assume we're talking about exporting from PureRAW or from any of the DxO products into Lightroom. The DxO is going to save a lot of the EXIF data, uh, more so than I think a TIFF file, which means that it's going to include, you're going to be able to apply optical corrections if they're not already applied. You may be able to turn the optical corrections on and off. Just try it and see. I forget who asked the question earlier about that. But try both, a DNG and a TIFF, and see which one you like better. I typically apply optical corrections uh, in DxO and export as a TIFF. And then if I'm going to use Lightroom or Photoshop, I make sure the optical corrections are turned off because I already applied them in DxO. And Shakib says, thinking of buy a used one around 350, the 12 to 40 Pro. Yeah, that's a good price. So if the lower light capability matters, you know, the being able to use lower ISO, I think that's worth the price of admission. And then the sharpness and all of the good things about a pro lens, the weather sealing, all of that stuff. That's a good deal though, 350. And Greg says, I'm confused about ISO on my own one Mark II. Whenever it goes down to 200, it warns me with an L, like L80. I thought the lower ISO, the better the IQ. Oh, okay. No, you're not going to be able to really perceive any difference between, say, L80 and ISO 200, but technically ISO 200 is the native ISO of the sensor. Anything other than 200 is compromising the overall image quality. To varying degrees, right? The further away you get away from ISO 200, the more the image is going to be compromised because of the signal to noise ratio. Going below 200, what I've heard is that you start to clip highlights more when you go below ISO 200, say, versus shooting at ISO 200, but it's pretty negligible. I've never had an issue shooting either way, and if I'm very close to the highlights being clipped at ISO 200, it's not ideal anyway. It's not an ideal exposure anyway. So going to ISO 80 and clipping them completely should not affect your overall composition and the image you're trying to capture, because you're not putting any priority on the highlights when you're going down to, you know, if you're exposing the highlights so that they're almost being clipped anyway, the highlights are not going to should not be the priority of the image or the composition. If the highlights are a priority in the composition, then of course you'll expose for that. But if you don't want to compromise the shadows areas, then uh, the best thing to do in those situations in high dynamic scenes is to um, bracket the shot, plus or minus, do exposure bracketing and blend them in post. The reasons you use like lower ISOs, 100 or ISO 80, is so that you can slow the shutter speed down. And again, you don't want to use these anything beyond, you don't want to use anything other than ISO 200 if you're going to if the edges or the extremes of the exposure are important, right? Uh, but generally speaking, if you're trying to slow the shutter speed down, the highlights, you're probably not dealing with very strong highlights anyway. I wish I could explain this better. But yeah, don't worry about it. The lower ISO, the better the IQ. That is just not the case. The native ISO is always going to give you the very best image quality. In this case, ISO 200. And that's going to be true for any camera that has a stated base ISO. Like I think on my XH2, the base ISO is 125. On other Fujis, it's 160. On Nikon, it's 100. I think on some Nikons, the base ISO might be 80. Every camera is going to have a different native ISO that's going to be the optimal for image quality. And then going anywhere outside of that is going to have a negative impact. And what else in technology will camera companies be coming out, or do you feel that we have hit a tech wall? No, I don't think we've hit a technical barrier. Uh, I think there's still a lot that can be done, you know? It's just up to our imagination and creativity and ability for them to execute whatever that idea is. We just haven't seen it yet, but I don't believe in walls. I think there's always going to be advances and improvement in technology so long as there's a need and imagination to fill that need to be able to make that product, right? Now, if we continue to use silicon to build our sensors, right? Uh, Silicon wafers, excuse me. We're definitely going to have challenges, and it's going to be harder and harder to overcome those with time. And they're going to have to come up with some new way to develop sensors with other materials other than silicon, maybe. I don't know if that exists. I'm just trying to be creative, thinking outside the box. What other kind of materials can you make a sensor out of that's sensitive to light other than silicon? I don't know. There might be. I'm not an engineer, so I'm not researching this on a regular basis. But short answer is no. We haven't hit a tech wall. We're gonna continue to advance in the future. Like lenses, for example, right? Currently, the way lenses are designed, uh, yeah, there's an inverse relationship between the size of the lens and the quality of the lens, like I stated earlier in the stream. But there is new lens technology coming out there that they've done some prototypes, but I forget what it's called. But they're putting micro lenses on the lens itself, right? Because you know how we have micro lenses on the sensor, they're putting micro lenses on each lens, and somehow this really solves a lot of problems. So that just like the spherical lens solved a lot of problems, these micro lenses on the lens itself is going to allow the lens to perform or do more corrections in a single piece of glass where it might take a few pieces of glass to do now. So they're going to continue to be able to make lenses smaller and smaller with this new technology. But I think the problem is in the machining of these lenses, they don't have they don't have computers powerful enough to uh, etch the lenses out or the micro lenses out on the lens itself, something like that. It's all way, way, way beyond me, all this technology. But they have the idea. They have the concept of a new lens design, being able to implement that design in in production is a whole different matter, right? And I'm just waiting for different things in not only lenses, but in our cameras, maybe the sensors, maybe the chips, that they make the boards. Because if they can design a new circuit board with new chips and whatever else they have on these things that generate less heat and noise internally, uh, you're going to be able to have much, much better dynamic range and much better high ISO performance with just changing the circuit board on the camera, maybe not necessarily changing the chip itself. So, there's just so much out there, but the problem is, to mass produce these things for production in mass production, right, is a different story because you have to be able to source the parts and quantity at a price that's reasonable to make the camera affordable for the consumer market. So I have no doubt there's a lot of prototypes out there that do have incredible dynamic range, low noise, and, all that stuff. But there's a mass production issue, right? Of being able to produce this kind of camera or technology in our cameras that make it feasible or cost effective. But we'll get there eventually, right? Like global shutters right now, it's a $6,000 camera, the only one that has it that I know of. But it'll probably trickle its way down into lower end cameras eventually, because there's nothing wrong with a global shutter, right? And this side toward, you need to save money for the Z5 too. Rest can wait. Trees can wait. No, the trees cannot wait. It is a mandatory. Yeah, I'm under mandatory orders to get those trees trimmed. Let me just leave it at that. Darko says also, do you think we will just shoot video one day and pick stills from the frames we want? It could happen. It could happen. I mean, 8K video is what, 40 megapixels, right? Or 30 some megapixels. It's just a matter of processing power. So we'll get there. I mean, we are near the limits of chip development, right? Developing the processors for our cameras. I don't know about on our cameras, but developing the chips because they're down to almost the size of the the size of the molecules themselves and developing the chips, right? And I mean, if they start developing processors that are down to the single atom in terms of developing a circuit, right? I mean, that would be we might even be close to that now, where they can develop chips and circuits designed down to the atom level. Why not go down to the proton neutron level on top of that? I don't know. It's like we're going way beyond what my knowledge here of physics, but I know certainly they're down to the few molecules in terms of width of each circuit or line in a circuit when they're designing chips. And I don't know if they can make it smaller, right? How do you design a chip that you have to create with light where the wavelength of light is bigger than the circuit itself? That's pretty difficult to do, if not impossible, without developing another technology to be able to develop chips down to the atom atom level. Okay, get as many quotes as you can for trees. You may see a wide variety of prices depending on how the contractors are for work. Yes, I got 4 different quotes. Um, It wasn't a huge disparity. They all started at the same, and then when I started negotiating and haggling, I got one down to the lowest that I think I can get. I had one guy that was ridiculously low, but yeah, I no insurance, barely speaks English. I ain't doing that. Okay. I mean, it's not like one guy can cut the tree down. They need a crew. They need a truck. They need to be very conscious of the power lines because one is running right. I mean, the power lines are going right next to the tree. Yeah, not not pretty. Oh, everybody give this stream a thumbs up. Oh, thank you, Hiker Jet. I appreciate that. And large GFX2 with top display removable EVF looks very nice, but yes, it's heavy large camera, mainly for landscapes, product shots, and studio work like the Pentax 645Z was. Yeah, that is a studio camera. You know, it definitely for studio. Taking out in the field for landscape photography, I don't know. I could envision that, but given the price of the camera and the single-use purpose, I can't do it. I just would not do it. It just does not fit my budget at all. I buy a lot of $10, $20 items that are single use only, right? Like an ND filter. Really might only fit one lens if I buy a certain ring size. That's fine, but I ain't spending 5, 6 grand plus the lens another couple grand for basically single use type photography. At least it would be for me. Darko says, how good is the lens on your Sassy, Rob? Is it the 80 millimeter lens on that film of Beast? It's a nice lens. I have not tested it on anything else. I don't know how to adapt that lens to any of my other cameras, but it is very sharp. I do have one image that I really like that is a good example of. Let's see if this is an album. Like I'm looking at these, right? This I shot with my Hasselblad, and this was on Kodak's T-Max 400, so not even high. Well, this is relatively low grain film, but I mean, look how sharp this lens is. It's crazy. Uh, here's another shot. There's another shot. My photo buddies there. We go out on photo walks. This is David. He runs the club. Um, what is this? Is probably this is a T-Max. Okay. Yeah, some of these shots are better than others in terms of sharpness. But look, I can read the letters on this sign. Almost read the numbers over here on this pole over here. So just type in Hasselblad on my page, and then it should bring you to this album. Let's see. What's this? Oh, I'm stuck. All right. Never mind. Anyway, just search Hasselblad on my Flickr page and you can take a look at it. It's a great lens. What was the website for those lens chart comparisons? Oh, that was DP Review. I'll give you a link to that. I think that's what you're referring to, right? It's not a lens chart. It's a camera comparison. Like a Q2 is a fixed lens camera, so it's always going to be that lens. But DP Review, So you just go to DP Review, right? You go down here to cameras, or I'm sorry, sample. Where is it? Yeah, right here, sample images, and then down here, studio scene. And then I'll just give you the link for that. Okay, and let's see, having the same, oh, okay, so this is the ball head Marco uses. So no problem. I would like I said, I don't want to second guess Marco. He's he's legit. Hello, Rob. Any good budget travel tripod out or coming out? Yes. By budget though, depends what you mean by budget. I consider budget like $40, $50, right? For tripod. Once in a blue moon, you can get a deal like I did for $16. That's like once in a lifetime deal. But let me take a quick look. Um, so this is my deal page. I'm thinking this one right here. There should be a coupon here, 30% coupon too, right? This looks pretty decent to me. So this is going to be what, 30% off would be about $18. So, or $15. So this would be $42 tripod, right? This is pretty good. Another one is, this is very, very similar to one that I paid $16 for, but what is the height of this? 55. It's not quite as tall. This is a very small tripod. So this is a bit smaller, okay? 55 inches, but that's with the center column extended. So in reality, this tripod is pretty low if you want the most stability. Whereas the other one here, the Mac Term, this is 67 inches with the center column extended, but without the center column extended, it's 56.3 inches. So it's going to come to about right here, at least on me. I'm 5'8". So it's going to come to about right here. Well, maybe a little lower, but then when you add your camera, you're here, right? So this one I like because it's about the right height. It's pretty much all metal. I mean, there's the leg joints and stuff are plastic, but this looks pretty good for $45. And let's see. Let me look at this again. This is just a little bit too cheap. But what's the problem with this one? They don't tell you exactly the height. But so I wouldn't get this one, even though it's super cheap. I can't tell how tall this is and how good is this ball head, right? It looks pretty small. What I do like is it does have an all metal base here, and the legs are metal or aluminum or something, and it converts to a monopod. This is $25. You could get this for 25. If you don't like it, just return it, right? Amazon has a very liberal return policy. And this is the challenge I have is a lot of things I'm recommending are sight unseen, right? I don't actually own the product itself. But I put things on this page. A lot of them I have bought and owned myself, but there's a lot of things like this tripod. I'm doing my best guess that this will be a decent tripod for the money. $25, it's hard to beat. But I would say of all the ones I'm showing here, this one here is probably your best bet because it has a 67-inch height, but like I said, it's high enough without the center column extended that it's going to be much more usable. So this is the one I would recommend. Okay. Oh, let me. So if you use that link, robtrek.com/deals, that'll take you to that page where all the tripods are that I showed you just now. Plus a bunch of other stuff. I didn't update it today. I try to update it almost every day with deals and stuff, but those are the ones that I found. Yeah, we still have decades left of silicon process innovation. Yeah, and Marco would know because computer chips, which is kind of his area, he would know. Transparent aluminum. That's a reference to Star Trek when they were trying to save the whales, right? I think they have it though. I think they made transparent aluminum. I think it's a real thing now. We'll be measuring in angstrom versus nanometers in the next generation. Are you serious? Crazy. I don't even know what an angstrom is, but yeah. And new technology. What if we had solid state batteries or part of the body could be battery? Ooh, interesting. I would just worry if I drop the camera, am I going to get electrocuted or is it going to explode? Anthony asks, is the Pro 8mm f1.8 a good lens for night photography, especially when shooting the Aurora? Does anybody out there have any experience with this lens? The 8mm f1.8 is excellent. Optically speaking, it's super sharp. I own this lens. I don't use it very often, but the few times that I did, yeah, wow. It is sharp corner to corner. It is an excellent lens. And John says, do you change settings in mono mode, contrast, sharpness, filter, or do you leave settings neutral in the camera and adjust them post? I used to change in camera a lot, but now I do everything in post processing. If I'm trying, sometimes I do things in camera just to get a feel for what I want to do in post processing. So I'll do it for that. But generally speaking, I just shoot straight mono. So for example, like on my Pentax monochrome camera, I don't use any of the profiles that it has built in. I just use the flat profile and edit the raws in post processing. And that's the approach I generally take even on my color cameras like my Pen F and OM3 is I'll just put it in black and white mode. I may adjust it slightly if I want to get a feel for the look that I want to go for in post processing, but ultimately I'm going to edit the raw image. And let's see. Thomas is here. Good to see you. Has there been any discussion on the long-term effect of tariffs on the camera makers? I'm concerned about OM system ability to thrive, if not survive. I don't think it's going to be an issue for anything they make in their Vietnamese plant, which is probably most things. Like, I don't even know if this OM3 was made in Vietnam. It probably was, but I can't read this. Where's my glasses? Uh, Let's see. We'll have to wait and see is the short. Yeah, made in Vietnam. That's the short answer. This lens may have been made in Japan, though. Ooh, this lens is made in China. My 12 to 40 Pro. So you never know. Okay. But my opinion, just wait. Just wait and see what happens, you know? Or if you need something now, just buy it now, but I wouldn't worry about it. Let's see. And ES Harris says, "Did I see some Bluebell pics from this weekend? I was hoping to attend but bailed due to weather. Thought it might have been canceled. Hope the light was good." It was cloudy, but yeah, we got some decent shots. Definitely go check out the meetup page. I posted a few there. I can show you the ones that I did. Um, I did one. That's the one that I did, my bluebells. And then I did some macro shots. This is a focus stacked image. And the frog I did. Here's another macro shot. And another frog. This is using a polarizer, so I didn't get any reflections off the water. You can see right through all the leaves underneath. And that's it. And then on the meetup page, there's a bunch more from others. And Daniel says, "I had a large tree moved up against our home, 22 feet in circumference." That's a big tree. Quotes range from 5 to 19. Went with the 7K quote. They brought 2 broomsticks at a crane one day to get to trunk. That's $7,000 though, but that's a big tree, and I don't have to cut the tree down. I just have to trim it. But I'm trimming probably 50% of the tree to get it off of my house. Ugh. OM sells 7 camera models: OM1 Mark 1 and 2, the OM3, OM5, EM10, Mark 4, TG7. Pen is not showing as available. All the competitors have models in double-digit quantities. Yes. Um, that's been the case for many years, I think, right? I think since like been like that a while. Trying to think. As soon as the next version comes out, they don't keep the old one. Whereas like Sony, they got the A6000, A6100. They keep selling the old models. Whereas OM Systems and Olympus in the past, if you had the EM5 Mark 1, when the EM5 Mark 2 came out, the EM5 Mark 1 is gone. Let's see. 55 max inches is decent if you like shooting at waist level. Not sure if your 55 inches is without extending it was 56 inches without extending the center stalk, which is 4 foot 7 inches, which would put it about here for me. I'm not that tall, but I'm not that short either. I was the average height for my age group. Back when I was in high school, 5'8" was like the average height. I think the average height now is like 5'11" or 6 foot now. We're getting taller as a human race. Next minute says we can expect much more computational photography with better CPUs. Like if you take 3 to 5 frames, combine them, and have the result without noise and nice dynamic range, even in one ISO 25,000, 1/1000th of a second. Could be, yeah. And at Rob Trek, have you been to China lately? No, I've not. Never been to China. And I ordered the 100 to 400 Mark II to avoid the tariffs. Okay. Yeah, if you're planning on getting it anyway, just get it now. I don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs, but if you're kind of on the fence about something, probably now is as good a time as any to get one. If you're not on the fence, I wouldn't buy something out of fear of the price going up, right? You know, buy something because you want it, it'll make you happy and you're gonna use it. Prices be damned, right? 60 or 90? I assume you're referring to the macro lenses. I'm saving up for the 90 millimeter. I like the 60, but I'm not a big macro guy personally. But the 90 millimeter gives you a little more working distance, has image stabilization built in, is a 2x magnification versus 1x, and weather sealed. I don't know if the 60 is weather sealed or not. It might be, but and it's technically 3 times the price, but I can get it. I can get it for about 2 times the price. I think it's worth it. But I don't do enough macro. I'm content with extension tubes and macro lens adapters. Where's the one I was using? You know, like here's my extension tubes. Then uh I just had it here, but I use those, and that's enough for me. So that's why I've kind of held off on buying this lens. But it would make things a lot easier for bugs. Bugs are a pain to do with extension tubes and macro lens adapters because your focus range is very limited. So when I'm trying to get close to something, it's really, really hard to get the anything that's moving in focus because it can move out of the focus range that you have available to you very quickly. And that's the only reason I would get a dedicated macro lens is because it's a pain in the butt. I wanted to get pictures of like ants or bees or, you know, really close up pictures of these kinds of insects that are moving fast. And it's really hard to do with extension tubes or macro lenses, macro adapt, macro adapter lenses. I'm not, I got the order of that wrong. Macro lens adapter. Yeah. Those things that go on the front of your existing lenses, it's hard to do those kind of shots with those using those methods. And when using focus stacking in camera and RAW, is the stack JPEG made to the mode you are in, like vivid, neutral? Yes, it is made to whatever the current shooting mode is. So let's just do a quick demo. Let me put my card back in. And then I'll show you a couple images from this morning, and then maybe we'll call it there. So if I put this into focus stacking mode on, then I'm going to put the profile to monochrome. Really? Well, on my OM3, it won't let me change. Let me take it out of focus bracketing. Hold on. See, that's why I have to check, because sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about. And let me put it. Oh, interesting. What if I put the mode dial on mono and then I put it in focus? Well, on my OM3, if I put the camera into focus stacking mode, for in camera, it forces it into the natural profile. I don't remember doing that on my other cameras though. Let's try it on the Pen F and see. I don't remember if the Pen F had in-camera focus stacking, but I think it did. Iris shot. Oh, maybe it doesn't have that. Okay. This doesn't have in-camera stacking. My EM5 Mark II does, though. I know that. But let's try the OM1. You have to have a compatible lens, of course. That's why I have to keep swapping lenses. So my OM1, I'm going to put it in monochrome. Okay. And go in computational. Turn focus stacking on. Okay, on my OM1, it lets me do a black and white focus stack. Let's see what comes up. Yeah, that's black and white. That's funny. My OM1, if I do in-camera focus stacking, I can pick the profile. But on my OM3, that's weird. Why is it on my OM? I don't know what the OM1 Mark II does, but it's definitely locked on natural, because even I have this creative dial on mono, it's not letting me shoot focus stacking in camera in mono. Okay, so those are the two cameras I can tell you that are different. Okay, let's see. Weather is currently minus, yeah, it's cold where you are, man. And FYI, my very recently purchased Allman Mark II with 12 to 40 Pro kit lens are both made in Vietnam. My 12 to 100 f4 Pro is also made in Vietnam. Okay, good to know. Mine said made in China though, so you never know. There's been some polar bears spotted in the southern Labrador. No sighting on the island of Newfoundland this spring so far. Okay. And Zoltan, just saying, because China is very high-tech country, China turning into a mini Japan, but in large. Yeah, the Chinese, they are very smart. Very, very smart. Lots of I mean, think about how quickly they've come into the camera market. You know, they have the DJI stuff, I think is Chinese. They you know, they have a lot of smart people working over there. All right, let's take a quick look. Um, I can show you two pictures I did this morning. So on the OM5, I can focus stack, and the OM5 does not revert to neutral. Okay, thank you, John, for sharing that. Yeah, that's weird. The OM3, and this is a really good example of all of these drive-by reviews that you see on cameras in general, not just like the OM3. But these are things you don't pick up on until you've owned the camera and tried like 1,000 different combinations of things. When you discover things like this, right? Um, that's why when you're here live with me, I have the camera, I'll try it if I don't know it off the top of my head, which is probably 99% of things, because how often I don't focus stack very often. And rarely do I focus stack using anything other than just a natural profile. So there's no way I would know that answer off the top of my head. I always thought, yeah, you can focus stack in black and white, and then as soon as I tried on OM3, so uh, that's a great question. That's a great question. I'm always happy to try it, you know? If I don't know it, I can try it. I'm not like that other guy on Ohm Systems, man. That guy knows everything. He can answer everything in detail and all the exceptions, right? I forget his name. Hopefully he's still over there. I haven't seen him in a while. I think his name is David. I don't know. He's really smart though. Absolutely, yes, and they are such friendly people, generally all Asian people. Yeah. Most human beings are very nice. It's I think it's in our nature as human beings to be good people. It's always when as a country, as a government, the governments and countries, they don't get along as well as I think individuals do, right? So if I went to China and didn't have to deal with, or anywhere in the world, and met people, I think generally everybody's going to be very kind, hospitable, and have a good heart. I don't think we're born with any kind of malice against each other. It's just, our the world that we live in and politics and governments and sometimes even evil in general gets into the equation that makes so just never make assumptions against any individual person. You don't know anything about that person. I never assume anything about a person when I look at them. 'Cause I don't know them. There are some people I got to know that I couldn't stand though, and that's rare. But some people just rub me the wrong way. And it's not that I hate them or anything. I just don't want to be around them. Like, you're a really nice guy, but in my head, I'm thinking this is a really nice guy. He's not doing anything bad, but he just annoys the crap out of me. I gotta go. You know what I mean? I, you know, uh, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about this one person. There's other people that tick me off sometimes, but then, I take a breath. The next day, I forget about it. It's like, whatever. I was having a bad day maybe, and that's why I got pissed off. You know, because when I think about it, what difference does it make in my life? What somebody else says or thinks? Almost nothing. And let's see, I just purchased a non-OEM battery for the OM1 BLX one. It was built-in USB-C charging port, BM Premium, about $30. It was 20% charge. Got about 100 minutes to fully charge. Yeah, just be careful with those. Anytime you buy a generic battery, I think they're great for secondary backups and things, but I wouldn't use it as my primary battery for like a paid job, certainly. But I would always use my original OEM battery until it died, then try to use the backup, uh, which makes sense, right? It's just common sense. But I haven't found a generic battery that didn't swell up over time. Some faster than others. And Roger said, I may have missed your answer to my close-up lens set that I had for Canon film cameras. We're going to try and mess around with them. The 58 plus one, oh, the diopter thing. So yeah, try it. Typically what I found was I bought a generic set of diopter, macro adapter lenses that were like plus one plus. The edges were soft, and I could only use the center, and even then it was not great. It was usable, but for whatever reason, the one that I bought recently that I paid $40 for, excellent. And it's on my deal page if you guys want to get it. It's really good. Because you can buy these plus one, plus two, like Roger's talking about, for like 20 bucks, like some generic ones. But they were terrible. They were terrible. But this is a set. Try it. It may work fine. Because what I bought for $40 is the same idea. It's a diopter. I think it's a plus two. But the quality I got from it is excellent. John says, was it that Apple salesman long ago that annoyed you so much? He's one. Thanks for a reminder. I think I'm over it now, though. Finally. What's it been? 40 years? I think I'm over it. That Apple guy. Okay, we'll check your deal page. Yep. And great point about assumptions. Assumptions are the root of unhappiness in many people. Yes. Yep. I just never assume anything about anyone. You never know. I mean, I've I've met so many people, as we all have. We've met a lot of people in our lives. You can't judge a book by its cover, right? So, I just don't judge anyone, and I have to deal with a lot of Chinese companies. I get emails from them, and it's always interesting to read the forums where there are people from China that participate in these forums, and you wouldn't know they were in China, for example, right? Because they're expressing the same concerns, the same frustrations, the same happiness and joy, enthusiasm that they get from photography. They're just like anyone else. Human beings are human beings. Uh, we all have we're all common in that way, right? I don't know. Let's not get all philosophical about it. That's when I start to forget the English language and can't articulate what I'm feeling or want to say. Um, but okay, we'll do one last thing here, and then we'll call it. Let's see. But yeah, so this is one of the shots I did today. Again, I this was not my photo shoot. I was just there to help them with the lighting, and we were outdoors. It's a cloudy day, but this is one of the shots, and this is another one I did. I was just helping them, but this was their idea. This is not the way I would. This is not a location or pose or anything that I would do for a person, for this kind of shot. Totally their creative choice. I just did what I can, but this is one of this. She's a ballerina, I guess, like with these red gloves. Their. This was all her creative choices in location and costume and all of that. But these came out okay, I think. I have about 3 or 4 more I'm gonna edit and send over. Uh, but this was not for any nothing commercial or paid to do kind of thing. It was just sort of I rarely get to shoot actual models or people that are willing to model for me. So that's why I have so many self-portraits. Like I did this one. Let's see. This was another one from that same. This is another one that I did a few days ago. Again, 12 to 40 Pro with the OM3. So that's what I've been doing all week. Is I've been doing like these portrait sessions, helping this person with their lighting, right, and teaching them about how to use flash for doing portraits because they like doing portraits. I'm not really a portrait guy. I'm a self-portrait guy. This I used 2 lights. I had one Godox V1 in a 22-inch softbox, and then I had another Godox V1 pointing at the ceiling, and the lens was bouncing off the top from the ceiling back down. We got nice even lighting in the background, and then in the foreground we got some nice shadows, right? Highlights and shadows. So that was one, and this was this was the other one. This one and this one. Okay. Oh, let's see. Where is my chat window? Next one said, true. Olympus BLS5 for my Stylus 1 and EPS 6 are still good, although 10 to 12 years old, but third-party replacement ones are 2 to times thick now, similar to the XZ1 and XZ2 batteries. Yeah. I mean, generics, they just swell up. It's just bad chemistry, right? And what makes them swell is basically heat, right? Charging them fast. So if you have generic batteries, use slow chargers. Don't use fast chargers. And yeah, keep them cool if you can. Daniel says, been using the 12 to 45 f4 with my pen. 90% of my shots are 12 millimeters, so I ordered 12 millimeter f2. Really love the 17-1.2, but it's too heavy for me on the pen f, but just right on the M1. Thanks for your reviews. Oh, happy to help. That's a great lens, a 12 millimeter f2. Um, I sold mine. Kind of regret it, but I sold mine because I have the 12 to 40 Pro. So if I need 12 millimeters, I just use that because I rarely need to use 12 millimeters. Very rare I shoot that wide. I much prefer, if I'm going to go wide, I much prefer like 9, maybe 7 millimeters, like very, very wide. But 12 is kind of just right at the cusp of not quite wide enough. It's not quite wide enough when I want to go wide. I never pulled out the 12 millimeter f2. And it's too wide for most things. That's the problem. It's just too wide for most things that I want to shoot. I just don't like that field of view too much. I like 28 millimeters or the 14 millimeter kit lens. 14 millimeters is perfect for me. The 12 millimeters wider, but it's not wide enough when I want to go wide. And it's too wide. So yeah, I like 14. I mean, I could shoot 12 and just crop in a little, right? But I don't know. Uh, I ended up not using my 12 millimeter f2 much because I have the 12 to 40 Pro. The lucky ones can shoot swimsuit models in competition. Yeah, it would just be weird for me. I do have opportunities to do. Not anymore, really. If I was into photography when I was in my younger years, I had so many friends that just loved to get their picture taken. Uh, don't know if I have any. And all I had was like a little point and shoot camera back then. And I wasn't into photography. See if I can find one. But she loved posing in her swimsuit for me all the time. A few different girls, actually. I don't know if I can find them. They're so old. It's out there on my Flickr page, even. Let me take a quick look. No, nothing. I got nothing on my. How about on my Instagram? What the heck is that? Bear with me. Oh, yeah. Nothing here really either. This was way, way, way. What's this? 20. This was 11 years ago? No, it's longer than that. Oh, sorry, you can't see it. This is really old. Gosh. But yeah, all these girls I used to hang out with, they love getting their picture taken. I had a couple of them do a bikini shoot with me. Like I said, I was just using, I'm trying to find it. I don't know if anybody cares to see them. I didn't post it. These are like in my private album somewhere. I don't like to share those things so much, right? 'Cause there's uh, but yeah, those were the days. Those were the days. We used to go out on the boat, and they would wear their bikinis, and I had I have a lot of pictures like that from back in the day. Like, yeah, it's been what is it now? It's 2025, so we're talking 25 years ago. Back then back in my younger days, they were my friends back in the day. Um, yeah, back in the day, I had a lot of friends that were girls, but not anymore. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are girls, but, you know we don't wear swimsuits and bikinis anymore, do we? Right, at our age? Although if you go on a cruise, you'll see some like that. Wow. Yeah. I saw some pictures from a cruise recently. There's, they were having a good time at every age in a bikini. Can't believe I can't find those pictures. They should be, like, right okay, I got one other place I can look, and then if it's not there, I'm not gonna try anymore. Under other? Nope, 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 wouldn't be these. Under projects? No, definitely not here. Projects are more recent. Under how about just under this? Regular photo page. Is this my this since they were before oh, here's one. This is really old. This is my old girlfriend here from back in the day. Um, yeah, that was my old girlfriend. I don't have I wanna show some of these. They're a little bit too risky. How about this one? No. Yeah, this is another one. It's been a long time though. Really a long, long time ago. But, her and her friends, so I got to be friends with a lot of her friends, and, so I got to know a lot of girls, and they if I had the camera out, they were like, "Take my picture," or whatever. Okay, let's see. Yeah, yeah, she was pretty nice. She's a nice girl. I mean, we split up on good terms. She wanted to go back to California and be with her mom, and I said, "Okay, I'm not going." And that was it. Uh, and that yeah, that's I'm trying to think, that might be the last girlfriend I ever had. No, that's a lie. I had many more after that. God, my memory. It's been a while though since I've had nobody cares about that. Okay, guys. Let me see if I can find one more picture. If anybody cares. If nobody cares, I can go. See, what's here? Phone pictures? No, these are a bit too I didn't have a cell phone back they didn't have camera phones back then when I took these pictures. This was like you had to have a actual little digicam point and shoot. Um That one I can't show. What about this one? No, what else is in here? 20, no, these are way too old. My shoebox. No, that's crap. Yeah, we'll just have to call it. I don't know where those pictures are. I mean, this is kind of one. This is this is not a very good picture. You know, she's kind of squinting and, you know, not the best picture. I don't know where they are. They're long gone. So, that's why you need a print. I know I got prints. I do have prints, but I don't have anything digital anymore. That's why you should always print your photos because digital can just vanish like that. It's probably on an old hard drive that died a long time ago. That's probably where those pictures are. Long before I was into photography and worried about backing things up. And so if I didn't put it on Instagram or Flickr, pretty much gone forever. Okay. Uh, the BLX1 non-OEM only charges at 5 volts, 1 to 2 amps via USB-C. Okay. So that's interesting. I bet most likely in the battery itself, though, it's upping the voltage to 8.4 volts and then lowering the amps to like 500 milliamps or something, so that you know it'll probably charge it between 500 and 800 milliamps at 8.4 volts internally, even though you're supplying it with a 5-volt uh, USB-C, right? So that's how those things usually work. Because otherwise, you'd have a 5-volt battery, which isn't enough to run a digital camera. Digital cameras, you know, at least the OM stuff needs to be at 8 volts or 7 point something. So you charge it at 8 volts. So it's got to be converting the voltage and amps down and the voltage up to charge the battery so that it operates at the right voltage in the camera. So you guys, thank you so much for being here. We'll call it here. As always, if you'd like to support what I do here, you can become a member, make a donation. The links below. Use my affiliate links. All of that helps me a great deal to do what I do, share with you what I know, and answer any questions you have. It's all greatly appreciated, and I enjoy doing it for you. I always do my best. So thanks for being here today. I'll be back on Tuesday for another sort of a stream like this. We do a little bit more shopping on Tuesdays than we do talking about photography, but it's probably about 50-50. I'll spend like half an hour to an hour shopping, and then we'll do another half an hour to an hour of talking about photography and answering questions. So you can come on Tuesday. I'll look forward to seeing you there. But otherwise, thanks for much being here today, and I hope to see you again soon.